What's up, everybody? Welcome to Philly with John Marks on PHLY. Why? Well, here's why. It's NFL free agency tampering period. All right, let me try to get my see, I got to get it doesn't have it centered on my home camera, and I have to put up my hand like I'm putting something else up, which I am not. But today it's NFL free agency, the tampering period, and a whole bunch of crap has already happened. So let's not act like that we're waiting with bated breath for the period to start. It's already started. And joining me on today's show to celebrate Eagles and NFL free agency and break it all down is Bill Matz for Broad Street Hockey and PHLY Flyers. Mr. Bill.
Good morning, Johnny Marks. How you doing today?
Love the Blue Phillies hat. You got the PHLY hoodie. You ready to go?
Absolutely. Got to get that PHLY branding in there.
Well, listen, we're gonna make sure that we mention some Flyer stuff because your hockey head coach is a total disaster and gives tons of content. I love him.
It never ends. It never ends with John Tortorella. It truly is an experience.
It'll end when it ends, which is, I don't know when that's going to be, but he always has an end date. You just don't know when it is. It's probably sooner than later. But yes, the latest in NFL free agency and the Eagles. Every year is different, right? Some years you have where your team is expected to be more active in free agency with acquiring players from outside of your team. This year with the Eagles and winning the Super Bowl, they're going to lose players. They're not likely to gain players right away. I don't think they might get somebody, but I think you're going to be watching early today in the tampering period. I believe you're going to see Milton Williams leave and sign elsewhere. I think you're going to see Josh Sweat, maybe not as early as Milton Williams, but I think you're going to see Josh Sweat leave early in the period here. And that's a matter of Becton and what else kind of happens here. But, you know, I would expect the Eagles to lose their players pretty early. These are players that just played in the Super Bowl that were very good in the Super Bowl that had multiple sacks each. And for a lot of people are holding out hope that the Eagles free agents come back. I don't think it's going to happen, especially the defensive players in Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. I think they're going to be gone, and I think they're going to be gone early. Bill Matz, do you agree?
Yeah, it's just one of those things you have to deal with when you go to and win a Super Bowl. And when you look at the investment the team has made, especially on the D-line over the years, you know, with Milton Williams, like the guy a lot, but with first-round picks and Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, can you step up and then pay a free agent defensive tackle? Can you go out and get Josh Sweat when you have other guys who can fill the spot? I would like to see them bring them back because they just had the number one defense, but this is just the business of football right here.
Yeah, right. The Eagles pay everybody, right? But you can't pay everybody. They damn near pay everybody. And you look at the price tags on these players now. It is outrageous the amount of money everybody's pretty much making. So like you said, if Myles Garrett's worth $40 million a year, so like Jalen Carter's going to be worth in the 30s, if not more. And by the time his contract comes up, what's he going to be worth? Jordan Davis, a lot of people are thinking the Eagles aren't going to bring him back because he hasn't been the player that they've drafted. I find it very hard to believe that they're not going to bring him back for his fifth year. So, like, players like that you use first-round draft picks that aren't busts but still have that potential. Milton Williams is a great draft pick. Great draft pick. Josh Sweat has his second contract with the Eagles. Already had it, right? He's been a very good draft pick. These guys have been great. They won a Super Bowl. Now they're going to cash in. Remember what happened after they won the Super Bowl however many years back? Guys cashed in. And the guys that didn't cash in weren't happy about it. Like Nelson Aguilar. He didn't get his new contract. He was pissed. And it wasn't good. So, like Milton Williams, hey, man, go make your money. Go get your bag. Have fun. Josh Sweat, see ya. Go make $20 million a year. And now the Eagles got to figure out what to do from here.
And remember the conversation last time. Is Howie being too loyal to some of these guys? Is he not bringing in enough guys who are still hungry, who haven't won one? Is he overpaying guys for what they did, not what they're gonna do? Like there's no way to be right here, at least in our eyes. We want our team to be together. We want to celebrate the Super Bowl as long as possible, as well as move forward and win that next one. And there's no way to do both.
Remember, it's funny you bring that up. Remember Howie afterwards said that it's important to the organization to sign the guys that help get them there, which is the exact opposite of what Joe Banner would have done. Joe Banner would have said to Brandon Graham, hey, thanks, man. See you. You're over 30. Meanwhile, it was important to the organization to bring some of these guys back. And there wasn't really like, they made mistakes. They should have never, like Alshon, they should have gotten rid of. They shouldn't have guaranteed him the money when they did. They were trying to make a trade, and that's why they did it. But yeah, like you're always going to make mistakes. Even Howie makes some mistakes. So you wonder what they're going to do here. So we're both in agreement that Sweat and Milton Williams probably leave. And then Becton, it's a matter of how much money is out there for him. Because if I'm the Eagles, I'm not paying him double-digit million a year to come back and play offensive guard. The entire line's making a ton of money. You have to get some savings somewhere. So I don't think Becton comes back, but I do think that depending on the market, he could be back. It just, again, it depends on the money.
Yeah, it's like, do the Bears want to pay him to play tackle? In that case, like, see you, thank you for your service, Mackay. This is the Jeff Stoutland advantage. We're not going to go out and pay $20 million to a guard. Like, that's insane. Not for this offensive line that we are constantly cycling guys in, and they have the best year of their career. Mekhi Becton, yeah, it seems like he might be special. And I always think, oh yeah, it's kind of the Jermaine Mayberry path. You know what? He wasn't a tackle, but he was one hell of a guard. Maybe it works out for him. And if he wants to come back and be that, that's great. But if the money's out there for him to really cash in, not with Jeff Stoutland, doesn't make sense for us.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody out there. K Red says good morning. Good morning, everybody watching on YouTube live as we build a community of chatters and mad chatters. Good morning to everybody. Remember, you can always watch on YouTube whenever. It doesn't have to be just live. That's the advantage of YouTube. You can go back and watch whenever you want to. All right. So the story that came out over the weekend, and it's something, and I'll throw my guy Elliot Short Parks. I'll throw him a line here because he's been saying it for a couple of weeks now. And here's what I think it is. I think it was an informed opinion that he was putting out there saying, hey, watch it. Dallas Goedert. He could be gone. He's not guaranteed any money. He's going to want a new contract. Elliot made it very clear he thought Dallas Goedert was in jeopardy of not being on this team in 2025. And what do you know, over the weekend, it comes out by multiple sources that the Eagles are shopping Dallas Goedert, that Dallas Goedert may not be a Philadelphia Eagle in 2025. So I wasn't surprised, Bill. I guess I just look at it and I'm like, okay, like I get it. I understand. Like he's not healthy. He wants a new contract. You have to save money in some spots. He misses a lot of time because of injury. I don't see a replacement on the roster. I mean, no. Greg Calcaterra is a good player. I mean, Dallas Goedert's a monster in the run game blocking. He's a monster when he's healthy. Look at him in the playoffs, man. He's a monster. So disappointing, and I hope they can make it work to get him back in lieu of a 4th-round draft pick, which is apparently like what they could get for him. But, I mean, this is the NFL, and it's supposed to be the cutthroat league of all the leagues, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised that Dallas Goedert could be gone.
No, he just turned 30 at the end of January. What, he start 10 games this year, 14 the year before that, 12. He doesn't play full seasons, and listen, I like Jalen Hurts a whole lot. He doesn't seem capable of consistently utilizing, one, all of his weapons. They don't throw enough for that to happen. And two, the middle of the field where a tight end typically, gets the majority of his production. He's got to get outside the pocket. He's excellent throwing outside the hash marks. I just don't see a need to pay a guy that you can't use to his full capabilities.
Hey, I wish they would have drafted somebody last year, because now you're going to go out in free agency and you're going to have to get a veteran guy in here, right? But like you said, Bill, I mean, this is already a run-heavy offense. Do you really need to value a tight end like you would maybe some other offenses? You have 2 top receivers, right? You have Dotson, who's making 1st-round draft pick money. Now he didn't have that kind of production. Had a good playoff, but didn't have that kind of production. Do you really need to pay a tight end that amount of money? I guess the answer is no. It doesn't seem like the Dallas Goedert is coming back. I hope this is one of these moves where in the middle of the season, we're talking about, hey, they have no production at tight end. Like, the tight end is really, really a weakness on this team. I guess you have to trust Howie, based on everything that he's been able to do in building this roster. I guess we have to trust Howie with everything, don't we?
It's hard to question. Like, what am I going to stand here and question the man? At this point, he's been one of the few bright spots at Philadelphia sports in the last 10 years. Like, yeah, I have a lot of trouble going on. I'm not seeing the vision here, Howie.
Yeah. So, and this portion of the program brought to you by Glatt Hair Restoration. It's not just about restoration, it's about innovation. 610-980-4000, glatthairmm.com. All right, so one of the big NFL stories that came out over the weekend was Myles Garrett. Like, oh man, we were trading for Myles Garrett. How many first-round draft picks you want? 1, 2, 3. How much money you want, Myles Garrett? When people say it's not about the money, Bill Metz, it's about the money.
Yeah, that's the dead giveaway. Hey, man, it's not about. If it wasn't, this would be done. Then what's it about? Like, then what is it about, Myles? Yep.
So, like, he was. I'm sure Myles Garrett wants to win, right? Like, I'm not even gonna say I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. This dude's a future Hall of Famer. He wants to win. And I'm sure he had conversations with the Browns, and apparently the owner didn't want to meet with him, but with Browns management that said, hey, we're trying to win a Super Bowl. Obviously, we made mistakes with Deshaun Watson. It didn't work out the way we wanted to, but that's when you got to pay him. If you want to keep a player like this, that's where you got to pay him. And you know what? I don't think it's the right move. Are the Browns ready to win in the next 3 years? Maybe they're going to draft a quarterback in the first round, high in the first round this year, but a record-breaking 4-year contract extension, $40 million a year, $122.8 million guaranteed. Say that again. $122.8 million guaranteed. It's the biggest contract. It's the biggest guarantee for a non-quarterback in league history. And you know what it does? Because when TJ Watt signed that contract with the Raiders, it upped it. And then Myles Garrett signs the contract and it upped it. And once again, that dumbass Jerry Jones, by waiting to re-sign his own guys, has cost himself with Micah Parsons, $10 million a year, maybe $30 million in guaranteed money. If he would have signed them before, like the Eagles do, and get ahead of the market instead of behind it, then you save money. They did it with A.J. Brown. They did it with Devontae Smith. Look at the DK Metcalf, and we'll talk about that in a second. DK Metcalf gets traded. He's getting $30+ million a year, right? So you wait, you pay more. So now Micah Parsons, unless the Cowboys trade him, which maybe they will, Myles Garrett resets the market, and now every defensive end in the league, including Josh Sweat, says, yeah, I'm going to make some money.
It's really just tremendous. And that was the first thing when I saw the story over the weekend was I just thought about the Micah Parsons deal. We talked about it last week right here. Like, this is what happens to the Cowboys, and it's why a team with an unlimited budget still finds itself in these situations all the time, because I think you're right. I think Jerry does it on purpose because, hey, it's all done. Now everyone has to focus on what's going on with the Cowboys, and what's going on with the Cowboys is it's a disaster. And I love watching it. I really do. It's my favorite television program.
Yeah, it's a radio bit. It is. It's a TV bit, because now Micah Parsons gets to, because he's entering his 5th-year option. He has no guaranteed money past this year. So now he gets to not attend mini camps in the offseason, hold out of training camp, or hold in from training camp, right? These guys show up because they don't want to get fined. And he says, I'm not participating.
Back hurts.
And then Jerry will go back and forth, and he'll go on the radio and talk about it and everything else. And like, this is what they did it with Dak Prescott. It cost them a ton of money. They did it with CeeDee Lamb. It cost them a ton of money. They're doing it with Micah Parsons. It's costing them a ton of money. Meanwhile, the Eagles just signed it. They just say, yeah, sure, we'll sign you. Sure, AJ, here you go. Sure, Devontae, here you go. It's good to be an Eagle fan.
It really is. It's tremendous to be a fan of a team that is well run and isn't like just a laughing stock, quite honestly, because you look at the cap number in this league, it seems impossible to get yourself into the kind of trouble that some of these teams do, but I don't know. They run into it somehow still.
You know what's crazy is that you're seeing a lot of now. It's the copycat effect. Everybody, more importantly, the media and the fans of that team, like the Bengals, for instance. I don't know what the hell they're doing. They're letting their defensive end seek trades or whatever.
Yeah,
but the media and the fans are saying, like, hey, how can the Eagles afford to pay everybody, but you guys are crying poor? Oh, we don't have enough cap room. Why can't you do what the Eagles do? Well, it's because Jeffrey Lurie writes a big check in the beginning, and then they can pretty much circumvent the system and manipulate the cap however they want to. And now everybody's realizing that this. So now you're going to see teams that are just saying like, oh, yeah, we'll just write a big check. Like Josh Allen got extended. And that's the biggest contract in league history. So that's going to give them a bunch of cap room, and it gets him money. You just pay everybody. Eagles pay everybody. I mean, I know we said they can't pay everybody. Can they not pay everybody? They're paying everybody. Everybody gets paid.
Yeah, if the Pagulas are willing to do it, there's literally absolutely no excuse for all the rest of the owners in the league. And like, remember the conversation, like dummy years when that was a new thing? Like, oh yeah, they just tacked on a couple extra years, but there's a clause that if he's still on the roster, it voids the contract. Like, what? And now everyone just does it. Yeah, Howie was doing that years ago.
It's a poison pill.
Yeah.
If he's on the roster on this date, the contract voids. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, he just cooks it. Yeah, so Josh Allen, $250 million guaranteed. $250 million guaranteed. 6-year extension. He's in Buffalo through 2030. And you know what this is? I remember, Bill, I was doing national radio on the weekends at the time, and there was somebody that came on before me. I had the Dynamite overnight shift, Saturday and the Sunday. And his name is Ryan Hickey, and he's a nice guy. And he was debating the Bills. They're like, Bills shouldn't give him a new contract. He hasn't earned it. He hasn't proven anything. And it's like, yo, Holmes, like if you're in Buffalo and you have a quarterback as talented as Josh Allen, you don't play hardball with him and make him go into the final year of a contract because he hasn't been to a Super Bowl yet. You kiss his behind and you say, we love you, Josh Allen, because we don't want you to leave. This is Buffalo, right? If you've determined this is your guy, then you keep him and you do what you have to do and you pay the price to keep him. And that's, again, what they've done. They didn't have to do this. They didn't have to give him this huge contract. You know why they did it? Because they want to make sure he stays in Buffalo, because if they don't have Josh Allen, they don't have a team. They go back to being Buffalo.
I would just love to know what the alternative plan is. Like, let's suck and hope we find someone who's maybe as good as him, but probably not because he's freaking awesome. Like, you get the number 1 overall pick 3 years in a row. Good chance you don't get someone better than Josh Allen. Like, really good chance.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like, and I don't know if it was just takesmanship by Hickey. I think a lot of it was it's just playing the other side, playing the contrarian side. But seriously, like, so Allen signs, he gets the big cash, and the alternative to Josh Allen is Tyrod Taylor and not making the playoffs for 15 years or so, however long they went without winning a playoff game or making the playoffs. So, Seahawks trade for DK Metcalf, or Seahawks trade DK Metcalf to the Steelers. What a non-Steelerish move this was. To not forget about the draft pick, to sign a wide receiver to a $30 million a year contract. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
You know, it really, a long time, I always thought, like, I would love to be the Steelers. Like, they just have this, like, original owner, and, they're built on the run game and defense. They've had, like, 3 coaches. Love the Steelers. That's an organization I admire. And when I see them, like, okay, you have George Pickens. Now you go out and get a DK Metcalf. I'm like, wow. So they're emulating us now. How about that? That feels really, really good to see.
Yeah, and that's one of the things when I'm talking about changing, like the league changing, because the Steelers always were able to draft and develop wide receivers, right? And Pickens is talented, but he's a pain in the ass. You wonder how much Mike Tomlin's going to have to deal with him. But yeah, they've always been able to use mid-round draft picks to get them. The big question is, who's your quarterback in Pittsburgh? And it may be Aaron Rodgers. I saw this morning that they're looking at Aaron Rodgers, which makes sense to me. If you're going to trade for the wide receiver, you can't, like, you're going to bring Justin Fields back and have Justin Fields as your quarterback throwing to DK Metcalf. Feels like a waste to me. So, but DK Metcalf, and again, he's making the top wide receivers are $30 million players now. It's unbelievable.
It's really wild to see the number for when I remember when quarterbacks started making 20, like, ooh, is there really room to go here? Now it's like, yes, it's more than doubled since then. Receivers make more than that.
When does it stop? What's the cap? I know there's a lot of
The
inflation.
limit does not exist, John. That's
no, it doesn't. You're right. It just keeps going up. Unbelievable. Devontae Adams also a 2-year deal with the Rams. Really, it's a 1-year deal where they would have to eat some money in 2020. Like if you look at the contract, like you were talking about, the contract to me, this looks like a 1-year deal. And then if he's really good, they'll bring him back because he's declined. He's 32 years old. But that's a good deal for the Rams. All right, coming back, more on the Eagles, NFL free agency. Are we ready to lose a couple of Philadelphia Eagles? Milton Williams, Josh Sweat. We just won a Super Bowl, and we're going to let them leave. Any chance they come back? We have that. Oh, man, and we have some Flyers stuff that Bill Matz is going to break down in Block C of the show because Tortorella went nuts. We have the trade deadline where the Flyers cashed in. All of that and more. The Sixers keep winning games. What are they doing? What are you doing? Philly, John Marks. Don't go anywhere. Bill Matson today, back in 2-2. That's right. Stay here. All right, so listen. Let's talk about, oh, man, we got to talk about my guys, my ladies at Rothman Orthopedics. Listen, I certainly, I'm not in great shape. I'm not in terrible shape, but I'm active. I'm relatively active. And I had a shoulder injury a couple years ago, and it's like, yeah, it'll get better. It'll get better. Literally after a year, I finally said, it was one of these Fugazi New Year's resolutions. I said, I got to get this taken care of. And I made an appointment at Rothman. And I went, and I'm thinking like, oh, well, MRI, and I'm going to get surgery. Is it my rotator cuff? Whatever else, right? And went in, one appointment, no MRI. I was offered a cortisone shot, which I declined, right? But it's like, yeah, you have a frozen shoulder. Well, what the hell's a frozen shoulder? You have a frozen shoulder, right? Like, I'll write you a script for physical therapy, which I went to right there at Rothman in Limerick. And boom, 6 weeks later, I was discharged, and my shoulder has been fantastic since. So whatever's going on with you, whether it's joints, your hand, back, you need a hip replacement, knee replacement, ankle replacement, knee, like whatever it is, any type of orthopedic care, Rothman is the place you want to go. For over 50 years, they've been taking care of you, specialized care. When I say specialized care, each Rothman doc is laser focused on their specialty. Hip, knee, spine, you name it. They have a team for each body part right in your backyard. 30 plus convenient offices, urgent cares, and walk-in centers. I've been to the Rothman Urgent Care a couple times with my kids up in Limerick. It sure beats the alternative of going to another urgent care, right? And it's not just the volume of what they do. They have a ton of new patients. They have a ton of consults. You're talking about groundbreaking research, clinical trials with the goal of advancing knowledge, developing treatments, and improving outcomes for the benefits of you, the patients. Rothman Orthopedics, specializing in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to make an appointment today. rothmanortho.com/PHLY. Oh, man, let's talk about Parks. I'm telling you, it was a great weekend at Parks Casino. Scotty McCreery from American Idol was Friday night. Michael Carbonero was Saturday night. But, man, there's a ton of entertainment that's coming to the Excite Center at Parks Casino. The Excite Center, they have MMA, they have boxing, they have headliners, music, comedy, shows, right? Lee Bryce, country superstar, March 22nd. Larry the Cable Guy, May 16th. Trevor Wallace, June 27th. Mark Norman, July 12th. So they have a ton going on at Parks Casino. My casino of choice. And don't forget, dinner and drinks before the show. ParksCasino.com to buy tickets for all shows. Parks Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, we're back. Philly on a free agent tampering period Monday. You know what's great, Bill, is that now it's like, oh, it's the official tampering period. Now they can officially tamper. What do you think they've been doing since the combine and since the season ended and everything else? There's always tampering that's going on. Now it just becomes legal to tamper. It's great.
No, I love that they just, okay, we'll create this extra period where there can be some communication. It's like, well, that means we start a week earlier than that. Like, what do you think we're doing?
It's true. Yeah, the illegal tampering started 3 weeks ago like it always does. Now it just becomes legal. But All right. So if it was up, Bill, if it was up to you, you're the Eagles, you're Howie Roseman. What are you doing? We have the big four. Darius Slay may or may not come back. We'll see. I would say it's better chance he's not back than he is back, but who knows, right? You have Milton Williams, you have Joshua, you have Mekhi Becton, and you have and Zach Bond's already back. So there's only three that are left.
Yeah.
What if you're Howie Roseman? What are you doing?
I'm Howie Roseman. I'm letting them know you're testing the market. I understand that you want to go out and get paid after everything. Now, listen, if you want to come back, we're more than willing to bring you back, but it's going to be, at a certain price. If you think you can go get paid, thank you for your service. But I would love to see one come back. I would. Just bring back one of these guys because they all performed so freaking well and so well in the Super Bowl that it's a bummer to let all three walk, but it might just be what you have to do, and you restock in the draft and you go from there. This is the price you pay for winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, for me, I just think Sweat is gone because the Eagles look at him and say like he's a good player, but we're not going to have the same kind of value that another team will, right? Like, was Sweat really that good last year? I mean, he was good, but are you going to pay him $20 million a year for it? I don't think so. And then the other thing is Milton Williams. And here's where I'm with you. He's a good player, right? Like, he's one of these good foundational pieces that he was a draft pick. He developed by his fourth year in the league. They tried to re-sign him last year. They were trying to extend him, and he wisely declined and elected to say, hey, we'll be free agents. That ended up paying off for him big time. I just think he's gonna outprice himself because you do have Jalen Carter. You have to look ahead to that. You do have Jordan Davis. He's a first-round draft pick. This is where the Eagles struggled after winning the Super Bowl in 2017. Their drafts weren't great afterwards. You have to now draft the replacements for these guys. You can't if you have a bad draft this year, if you have a bad draft next year, then you become desperate and you have to go out and you have to pay guys in free agency to try to get it to work. So you got to replace them in free agency. I would be shocked if Williams and Sweat are back. But it begs this question, Bill. You got to replace them. There's nobody. They're thin. You're going to need to sign at least one defensive tackle veteran, maybe a Jonathan Allen. You're going to have to sign at least one defensive end, if not two. And you're going to have to draft guys as well. So it's not like you have their replacements waiting in the wings and they're just, they just step up and it's the next guy up mentality. I don't know if you have a guy that can step in and play like a Sweat or like a Milton Williams. So Howie's going to have to go out and spend money to replace these guys as it is.
He is. Now, from what I've read, and who the hell knows, but from what I've read, there's a lot of really good defensive tackles. You might be able to get a DT with a first-round grade, like early in the third, something like that. But they don't have those guys because they've spent such heavy draft capital at the top of that defensive line rotation. And for D-end, I assume BG isn't coming back. I wouldn't want to, we're the same age. I don't feel like rehabbing a torn tricep for the second time right now. I'll tell you that. That's not something I'd be all that interested in if I was him after winning my second Super Bowl. And Nolan Smith got injured too. So you're really kind of thin at that edge rusher position. I think they're going to go heavy in the draft at these spots, but you do need replacements for the here and now. Nolan Smith, it's a great pick. It took him a year and a half to break out. They're not going to have that luxury because there's not a Brandon Graham or a Josh Sweat able to be there steady in front of them until he comes around.
We will keep you updated. Obviously, we have a ton of coverage today on PHLY. These guys are going to be working around the clock between Zach, Bo, Fran. Is the director of content, Jamie Lynch, is he involved in the Julia's producing today? By the way, Tyler Zuli's out all week on paternity. So Julia is producing today. Is Jamie Lynch the director of content of the network? Is he involved in the Eagles coverage or is he just now a suit? And he's not involved in the on-air product. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Billy Walsh over here.
So I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but I had talked about, I remember I brought it up a little earlier in the show. After the Eagles won the Super Bowl, maybe this was you, maybe this was with you last week. I forget. But after the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017, 2018, afterwards, it changes people. You're now a Super Bowl champion. Doug Peterson wrote a book and was on a book tour during training camp. People walk into the building, they're champions. Lane Johnson and I'm not saying he changed, but you know what I mean? Like everybody walks in, things are different. Now you have won a Super Bowl with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles. Obviously, that was a complete bleep show. And that wasn't a good thing post Super Bowl. But it changes people. And one of the biggest causes of friction in that locker room was Nelson Aguilar didn't get a new contract, which he wanted. And his deal was going to be expiring. He felt like he was an important part of the Super Bowl run, and he was. Alshon played with a torn rotator cuff. They rewarded him with it. But, like, guys wanted to get paid. And, you know, like Trey Burton left. Guys left. They got their bag, just like it's going to happen with this team. And you could tell, although the Eagles made the playoffs the next year, like chemistry was a little bit different. It wasn't that year where everybody was pulling in the same direction and everybody was focused on the same goal, which was winning a championship. Now you come back, you just won a championship. So it's already easy not to be focused with the eye on the prize, and guys are mad they don't get paid. So Darius Slay's asked when he leaves or when it looks like he may not come back and the Eagles are going to release him. He's asked, like, well, who's going to take over the leadership role? And he brings up Reed Blankenship. And he explains why Reed Blankenship would be the guy. Well, CJGJ was not happy with that. And he went on a 2 or 3 day binge complaining about it and subtweeting it and tweeting it. And then Slay's got to come back out and address it. And he's got to be like, well, I said that because Reed Blankenship was already on the leadership council. So, of course, it's natural for him to kind of slide in. But CJGJ is now offended by it. And now A.J. Brown has to talk about how this is high school and what are we doing here and everything else. So I talked about this last week, and I specifically mentioned CJGJ, and this is before anything with Slay came out. Saquon Barkley got paid. He got the new contract, which is awesome for Saquon Barkley. Are there other players on this team that have a problem with it? And I think the answer I got from people was, oh, well, who cares what they say? Like, Saquon Barkley earned it. Just say, hey, CJGJ, you're not Saquon Barkley. All right, will you explain that to CJGJ that he's not Saquon Barkley? He doesn't deserve some new money and a new contract. This guy's already a knucklehead.
That's
right. He's already a knucklehead. He's a good player, and he brings great energy to the team and the defense, but he's a stone knucklehead.
That's so why aren't you one of the leaders? Because someone didn't mention you, and now you're subtweeting about it for 3 days. This is exactly why you're not thought of as a leader in that capacity. Is he a leader on the field? Do I think the extreme makeover of this defense into, wow, suddenly they're like physical, huh? Like, yeah, I do think that has a lot to do with the way he plays and setting the tone in that way. But a leader off the field, no, because he acts this way. But it's just one of those things you got to put up with. It's like a, mercurial wide receiver. You just go, yeah, he's nuts. I don't know what to tell you. And you deal with it. And if he requires a new contract, you somehow figure that out. But you can't pay everyone, I guess, even though it seems like the Eagles can. But it's not surprising. And this is exactly what happens. Hopefully there's still enough guys who experienced it the last time who can go, all right, this is what killed us in 2018. Let's not go down this path.
Well, and hopefully there's not enough guys that, because AJ just got paid, Devontae got paid, Saquon got paid. Cam Jurgens is going to need a new contract, but I don't think he's going to cause waves in the media, in the locker room. He's the center, for crying out loud. But like, the point is, there's not a lot of guys that are looking for that new contract. CJG just got a free agent contract. It's not like he's underpaid and it's like, wow, he doesn't have any more guaranteed money. He's just an idiot. But I mean, like, I guess the point of it is that this changes people. And here's really my biggest thing, because you're going to have things like this. It's the NFL. Money is always going to be an issue without guaranteed contracts. It's just the nature of the business, and you have to deal with that, right? Jalen Carter's an absolute monster. everybody recognizes he's one of the better players, defensive players in the league, right? Now that Brandon Graham may be gone, now that, Fletcher's obviously not around anymore, but this really is a young defense. Does Jalen Carter now become, and, there was reports, there's a reason why he slid in the draft, and it had more to do with than just that accident that happened. It's like, what happens with Jalen Carter? Where's Jalen Carter? Is he coming back into camp in the best shape of his life? Or do these guys, I think it's natural, and you don't even realize you're doing it, to come into camp where, like when you lose and you're like, damn, like I'm training so hard this offseason. We are going to beat this team. We are going to beat the Chiefs. We are going to beat the 49ers. We are going to beat Washington. You are training so hard, and your eye is like Jalen Hurts with that screensaver on his phone, right?
Yeah.
That was his reminder of, we lost in the Super Bowl. When you win, that same thing's not there. And you may think it is, and it's so hard to win back-to-back. It's so hard to win multiple championships. It's amazing that the Chiefs are able to have the run that they've had. So, like, you don't worry about it. I'm not worried about it sitting here, but I'm just saying, looking ahead, it's like, these are the ways that next season kind of gets turned upside down.
I have heard there are a number of guys who like returned to the building right away and were like, we want next year's. Just had the best week of my life, and guess what? Want to do that again a year from now, 51 weeks from now. Want to be doing this all over again. And there are a number of guys who've been like, yeah, that was a fun week. Time to get back to work. And I hope that outweighs, whatever dumb stuff just happens in a football offseason, especially when you are the champion. You did earn it. Like, you did earn the right to act a fool a little bit. Hopefully you come back in some semblance of shape, and they have a plan to combat the complacency that does happen, no matter how motivated a locker room is, the complacency that can and does happen when you win a championship. That's why there've been like 2 teams that have gone back to back, since the salary cap, basically.
So difficult. It is so hard. I mean, in the NFL, there's so much turnover too, and guys leave and guys come. This team's going to have a roster to do it, but it's so hard to do a couple years in a row. Listen, we're pinch me, Bill Matz, because where this team is right now, this isn't my father's Eagles team, that's for sure.
Our concerns are it's really those first world problems. Like, oh, is this amazing defensive tackle we have who might be the next Aaron Donald? Is he going to need a new contract? We did just win the Super Bowl. He's probably coming up on that rookie deal, thinking, it's the problems. It's tough to call them problems.
First world problems. Yes, absolutely. Couple more NFL things. Aaron Jones going back to the Vikings. He was set to hit free agency. Nick Bolton and the Chiefs. How about Von Miller getting released from Buffalo? He's old and hasn't played a lot of games in a long time. However, the Eagles are going to have a need. Lane Johnson put up a hand wave and to Von Miller after he got released by the Bills. Maybe he's one of the veteran guys they bring in for a year. I don't know.
Could work in a rotation. It's not like we're going to ask him to play a ton of downs. Who doesn't love Von Miller? Sure. Why not?
We won't love him after he comes here and he plays 6 games.
2.5 sacks, 7 games. Like that's what we're looking at.
Maybe they shouldn't sign him.
Where's Hassan Reddick at? Is he available?
He is.
Bring him on back.
He is.
That bridge may be burned.
Yeah, you wonder. Maybe like the grass isn't always greener on the other side. He's going to want the biggest bag from the team. Hassan Reddick's the guy that says, yeah, I don't care. I'll go play for this 3-14 team.
He's going to be lined up opposite Myles Garrett. It sounds like a great spot for him.
Who was the blanket on his name? He was a great defensive end as far as getting sacks for the Eagles, but everybody hated him.
White Jason Babin.
Does he have some Jason Babin energy about him, Hassan Reddick?
Like he was awesome that first season. They did have a great defense. They led the league in sacks.
He was very good.
He was great, but maybe. I mean, he did get traded to the Jets and then go, I ain't showing up. Like there was a little bit of that for him. So perhaps a little Jason Babin energy.
All right, coming back. I've actually been as excited and juiced as I am for NFL free agency. I can't wait to talk a little Flyers with Bill Matz as John Tortorella benches Michkov and then yells at the press about it afterwards. The trade deadline happened with the Flyers. Also, the 76ers keep winning games. Great job, guys. Congratulations. Go on a little bit of a winning streak here to screw yourself out of the draft pick. Listen, it's tough to tank. The players don't want to tank. The organization wants to tank. You can still win games. That's all coming up right after this. Philly, John Marks, back in 2-2. Don't go anywhere. All right, let's talk about Central City Toyota. We good with Central City Toyota? All right, Central City Toyota. It's my Uncle Jamie. All right, Central City Toyota in the heart of University City, 55 years on Chestnut Street. So they've been in business 55 years on Chestnut Street. You know how? They run a damn great business. Michael Jamie's been at Central City Toyota for 30 years. So he's the GM. You literally can go in today and say, hey, I want to talk to Uncle Jamie. All right. New car sales, certified Toyotas, their sister dealership in Ardmore, ton of inventory. If you go to centralcitytoyota.com, you can see everything that they have. An amazing selection. Also, and I recommend this because this is something that is convenient. Because when you need your car service, when you need the oil change, when you need maybe repairs done to your car, right? When do you do it, right? What do? You drop it off and then you get a rental car. Like you have to sit and drink bad coffee on Saturday afternoon for 2.5, 3 hours waiting for your car to get serviced. No. You don't have to do that. Central City Toyota, you can make an appointment on their website, centralcitytoyota.com. If you work in Center City, if you work in the University City area, if you work like even in Bala Cynwyd, you're not far away. They'll come and they'll grab your car. They'll take it back to the dealership. They'll service it, do whatever you need, and then they'll drop it back off. It's like you don't even know what happened. Your car's just serviced. Amazing. CentralCityToyota.com for everything that they do. And again, right there in the heart of University City, go in and tell my Uncle Jamie hello. CentralCityToyota.com. All right, Glatt hair restoration. I was talking with my my girls up at Glatt last week. Really, if you're in worries about your hair, you can see my hair right now. I can't hide from this. This isn't some fugazi Instagram commercial that you're seeing where you see this guy, he's got this big afro and he's spraying stuff on it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sure that's how he has all his hair, because he sprayed stuff on his hair. No, this is legit. Before and after pictures, they're on at glatthairmm.com, GLAT-hairmm.com. My before and after pictures. What would my hair look like today? I'd probably have a shaved head. I would probably shave it. It would not look good. I had the receding hairline. I remember I decided to get the procedure done after I got my driver's license picture, a new driver's license picture. And I looked at it and I compared it to the other one. I said, Jesus, I've lost a lot of hair. The thinning, the receding. You're getting your hair cut differently. You're styling it differently, right? It doesn't have to be like that. And if you're just starting to regress, if you're just starting to recede and you're starting to lose your hair, they have something for you. All stages of hair loss, Glatt Hair. That's why you go there. They're the experts in the industry. Over 30 years of experience in hair. It's all they do. That's their focus. They're laser focused on hair. From the first phone call or the first email that you send them to the last follow-up visit, they're your advocate. They're doing it for you, right? They're not just you call and you say, hey, nice to meet you, Mr. Smith. Come on in. We'll give you hair restoration. You may not need hair restoration. It's not for everybody. Call their office today. You can speak to their hair team at 610-980-4000. 610-980-4000 or glatthairmm.com. That's GLAT-hairmm.com. You can also reach out to me on all my socials, on my email, JONMARKS media @gmail, and then on all my socials. If you have any questions, when I had the procedure done, I chronicled it. I took pictures so you can see what it looked like before. You can see what it looked like day of, day after, 3 weeks after. Because if you want to get this done, you can get it done and you don't have to tell anybody. I didn't. You literally don't have to tell anybody. glatthairmm.com. Bill Matz has even though he's wearing a hat, he's got a big mop of hair. I don't think he's got to worry about.
But they also do beards, Johnny, in case you have, like me, the Joe Dirt patches. So you can get that done as well, even if you have the nice head of hair. When we met with the Glad Hair people, they're like, oh, yeah, we do beards. So
Oh, for
there's something
sure.
for everybody.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Your hair grow, like you'll get your hair cut and then you'll have the long hair again a year, like not even a year later. I mean, you have unbelievable growth in the hair, man.
It's really insane. Like, I've had friends be like, didn't you like shave your head 6 months ago? I'm like, yeah, it's back. I don't know. It's weeds. I don't know what to tell you. I would like to see you with the shaved head though, Johnny. That would be an interesting look.
No, it's not
no.
interesting. The word for it.
You're way better off with the GLAT procedure.
So when I went to Temple, and because where the media classes are in Temple are on like the north end of campus, so like literally the last buildings before you go off campus are right there. So a lot of times you're parking like 2 blocks off campus, which is fine. But at one point I remember at Temple I shaved my head because I wasn't happy with my hair, whatever, and I was getting people yelling at me from the neighborhood, like yelling at me, call me a skinhead. So it was not a good look for me. Yes.
You can't have that.
No, I cannot. You cannot have that. No, I cannot get curb stomped in the neighborhood for shaving my head. So there you go. It's an interesting look, like you said, Bill.
Yeah.
Very interesting look. All right, listen, I've been waiting. You were booked to be on the show. So all weekend long since the trade deadline, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to talk Flyers with Bill Matz of PHLY Flyers and Broad Street Hockey. All right, so let's do the trade deadline second. So it was last week we talked about the big homestand for the Flyers, and like, oh man, now they got how many in a row at home? Like 7 in a row or 9 in a row?
They have 7 straight at home, and they haven't won any yet. They're 0-4.
4 straight losses. So I was looking; they have one of the worst records now in the conference as far as points. So the dream of them making a run and getting to the playoffs is over. But you know what? At least they dealt guys at the trade deadline. So what happened with yesterday's game? Michkov gets benched. Tortorella yells at the media afterwards. Give us the latest on what happened yesterday.
So yesterday, there's a goal scored against the Flyers in which doesn't appear as if Matvei Michkov really followed all his responsibilities. And you're not always sure with John Tortorella because he plays a zone defense system, but really it just looks like he didn't bust his ass coming all the way back. And then he has a tendency, Matvei Michkov, to, if he thinks maybe there's going to be a turnover in the defensive zone, he's going to stay in the neutral zone and wait for an outlet pass, get himself a breakaway. It's kind of part of their strategy, but you have to pick and choose your spots. Whatever it was yesterday, it ticked off the coach, and the coach sat him for the second half of the first period. Luckily, as we say with John Tortorella, it was not a hanging offense. We've seen him in the past. There was a game, I think, last season with Joel Farabee. He played 56 seconds of the game, came back, and then he was working the door for the next, 58 and a half minutes, basically. That was it. You sit there and you are humiliated in front of the stadium and your teammates. It wasn't that. He gets Michkov back into the game. He played regular shift second and third period. So it's not the end of the world, but when asked afterwards, it's always the John Tortorella. Listen, I'm not going to tell you what the problem is. And yes, there was a play on the ice, but it's always an accumulation with him. It'll be a number of things until he finally goes, all right, that's it, you're sitting. And they believe, the Philadelphia Flyers believe, this will make Matvei Michkov a better player in the long run. If he has a baseline of responsible John Tortorella hockey on top of his absolutely insane offensive instincts, he will become a better player because of it.
All right, so here's my thing, right? And I'm very much a Sam Boner, so Flyers fans don't get mad at me because it's like, oh, listen to Mark's trying to talk hockey. I get it, all right? But I also think it's sometimes an outside perspective from somebody that knows nothing is interesting as opposed to somebody like you guys are so dug in and like you're so knee deep in everything. So like what I've seen from Tortorella, and I've seen a lot of criticism and how he's handled Michkov in a lot of these situations. I mean, you said it wasn't a hanging offense. He didn't bench him for the rest of the game. He was unhappy with something that he did, and he sat him out for the rest of the period, and then he put him back in. So overall, how do you think that he's handled handled Michkov in this situation. I mean, like you kind of can't argue with the progress that he's shown this year, right?
I think Matvei Michkov is a better player right now than he was when in the preseason, when the season started. Definitely. Now, that could just be regular progress because he's going to be a really good player, and this is what happens. You get better as you learn to play in the NHL. But yeah, if it's little things like this, I think he came off the ice with 8 minutes and 50 seconds left in the first period. He ended the game with almost 14 minutes of time on ice. He averages about 16. He missed 3 or 4 shifts at most. I can't get up in arms about this. It is annoying. It's annoying to have to talk about it all the time, more than anything. And he's the main character. Matvei Michkov is the main character of this season. There's 17 games left. They would be miserable to be dealing with if not for the existence of Michkov in this lineup and watching him finish out his rookie year. But the Flyers don't want that. I always think of Keith Jones as president. Keith Jones was teammates with Eric Lindros. Keith Jones knows firsthand there was resentment in the locker room because one guy was treated as above the team. The fans, me, we can think Misha's above the team. The dudes in the locker room can't. And I do think that weighs into part of this.
That's a great, I mean, it's a great point, especially this early in his career. You got to let him know, like, hey, dude, like he's always going to be treated differently because he's a young superstar and everybody knows it. But like you can treat guys differently, but you also have to hold them accountable. And I mean, honestly, the real problem, and it's a good problem for you because it gives you something to talk about. Tortorella's such a dick. He can't handle the situation without being one, right? So he could have came out and said that, hey, listen, I saw something. I wasn't happy with it. I gave him some time. He could have said nothing, like you've done an Andy Reid and like said that nothing was, he wouldn't want to talk about it. But instead he starts fighting with the media about it. And that's what Tortorella does. It's what he's always done. And it's why it's interesting.
I do believe it to be a little calculated because yeah, he benched Matvei Michkov, and we could be sitting here breaking down the film of what exactly he did wrong and, you know, pointing out this 20-year-old non-English speaking immigrant's flaws as a 61 game rookie, you know, like we could be doing that, or we could be laughing because the coach is insane, and we're laughing because the coach is insane. I do think there is. Listen, he might claim to hate the media. He also, in his year away from coaching, worked in the media. He knows how to work the media. He's really, really good at it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's calculated. I like he also like. He's really, really good at it. He is.
Yeah.
When he was at the Rangers and other stops, it's like you'll see his press conferences for a reason, not because he's a hockey coach, because this is the way he behaves. It's awesome.
No, it's absolutely, it is all part of the John Tortorella experience. And you just have to learn to parse it. Like Charlie O'Connor has done a good job of figuring out, all right, he's not going to answer this exact same question with a little bit different wording. I have to go this way. And when you get him talking finally, once you finally play his game, he gives you great answers. He really is one of the more open coaches in terms of what he'll say in the National Hockey League, but you have to ask him the exact right way. Otherwise, he'll just go on a tangent and tell us how, you know, we don't know anything anyway.
Trade deadline. Scott Lawton finally gets dealt after years of rumors at the deadline. He finally goes. Some other moves made by the Flyers as well. Overall, thumbs up, thumbs down. Danny Briere, how did he do?
I have to give him a thumbs up. I really do. He finally did the right thing, and he did it at the right time. When you see the prices that were getting paid throughout this, I went from thinking, all right, Scott Lawton under contract for another year after this one. You don't have to trade him. It can be in the offseason. It can be at next year's deadline. Doesn't have to be now. And then when you see the prices teams are paying, it was an absolute seller's market. It became, Danny, if you don't do it now, man, like we're going to hold this against you forever because you didn't get the full return you could have. And he did it. He finally pulled the trigger. They moved on from a player that they think has a ton of value on and off the ice, a guy they think is a big part of what they're trying to build in their locker room, and said, yeah, the future assets are just more important than a 30-year-old third or fourth liner, which is what Scott Lawton is at the end of the day. And if you can get a first-round pick and a pretty decent prospect for him, not going to be a star, but Nikita Grubenkin is pretty freaking good. You have to pull the trigger.
When does this team make the playoffs, man? Like, when are we talking about I thought it was maybe this year. I was all excited and ready to go.
I think, the goalie situation complicates it because you can have 18 awesome skaters, and if your goalie's bad, it's a tough situation. But I think they take at least a step this offseason. They have so many first-round picks. Like the 2027 first they just got for Scott Lawton, they're never going to make that pick. Right. That is going to be traded. That I fully believe that. I think they take one big swing on a trade this offseason, and then next summer when the cap really opens up is when they go after free agents. They're going to continue drafting and developing. They're going to have pretty damn good draft pick this year because the team's terrible. So there's a good chance they draft in the top 5 this year. That would be huge for them. And I do think they take steps next season. Will the East be as bad next year? Tough to say, but I do think in the next year or two will be the beginning of finally moving forward with the team.
All right. Well, the 76ers, they've won a couple games here, beat the Jazz last night, and it's not like they're playing their top players. Maxey was out last night. He didn't play. But the problem is they have to finish, and they have the lottery. So even if they had the 5th worst record or the 6th worst record, doesn't mean that they're going to get that draft pick. But the last thing you want to see is them winning a couple games. So they beat the Warriors, which you don't want to see. They lose 3 straight, but then they beat the Jazz last night. The Jazz are also tanking. They're terrible. But I mean, players aren't going to tank. Even though the Sixers won 9 games the one year, they won 9 games. The players were trying. They were just so bad they couldn't beat anybody.
A G League team. That's
right.
Just now, what happened.
Unfortunately, this team isn't that bad. So when you're looking at it, and every game that they win, you kind of cringe because you're like, you really, really want that draft pick. Right now, they have the 5th worst record in the East and the 22 wins. So they would have the 8th worst record in the NBA right now because you've won a couple games here. It's going to be really hard unless you literally lost out, because all these other teams, they're losing games on purpose too, or they don't want to win games. The Jazz want to have the 2nd worst record in the league right now. So any bad team that you play, they're going to be trying just as hard to lose as you are. So it's going to be tough because now, like, I can't believe people actually watch these games. Like, you got to be a real Sixers fan to watch a game. Bill, I could sit here and lie and say that I'm watching these 76ers games. I don't do fake radio or fake shows. Big digital shows. I have no interest in watching any of these games right here. So you can watch Lonnie Walker. I'm out.
I'm in the office the other day. We have a Flyers post game and there's a Sixers post game. We're both together at the same time. I just go over to the boys. I'm like, so you got the countdown calendar too? They're like, oh yeah. We're both like, yeah, 17 games left, man. We got this. We can get through this. That's just the feeling with the team right now. And yeah, it's maybe. I think the problem, they got to get Paul George back on his podcast. That is the problem.
That would help. Real fast. Shout out to everybody watching on TV. Slide on over to allphly.com to watch the rest of the program. Also, at allphly.com, you can get PHLY Daily. Rich Hoffman Jr., man, I'm telling you. I mean, he's doing all the work for you. He's not doing it for me. Well, maybe he is. But if you want everything from a Philadelphia sports page, like back when we used to buy the daily news in the newspaper, that's what Rich has done for you. And it's free. They deliver it right to your mailbox, not your mailbox, your inbox. All right. Like this morning, Flyers cash in on the deadline. All your Flyers coverage right there. You got everything you need for Eagles free agency that's going to start. Phillies stuff, everything that happens on the network. You can subscribe at allphly.com. Bill, did you ever used to deliver newspapers back in the day?
I never had a paper route. No, my one buddy did, and I helped him roll up and bag the papers, but never actually deliver them.
Yeah, I like you, I was a substitute. So when my buddy went away for like vacation for a week, I would do it, and I hated it because you got like $30 and you would have to get up at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning and roll, like you said, roll the papers. They would drop this big big thing of papers on the corner. You have to go get it, cut it open, and then roll the papers and then deliver them. And then, those kids had to also collect. It's not like they just went directly deposited in your account. You had to go fight people for the money.
Yeah, my buddy was like 10. Like, what? Like, what? How are you in charge of collecting the bill here? They could just be like, get out of here, child.
It's really weird, isn't it? They let 10-year-olds deliver newspapers.
10, 12, whatever we were. Yeah.
No, you're right. You didn't have to be working age. You didn't have to have working papers, be 14 or whatever to do it. Yeah. So you don't have to do that. All you have to do is go to allphly.com to cash in on that. All right, last thing. You were at SmackDown on Friday night, Bill Matz?
I was. On a Friday afternoon, we had our big trade deadline show. 2 to 4. The deadline was right at 3. At around 3:30, Ava jumps in the chat. My wife says, "Hey, Bill, I know you're working real hard. Well, guess what? I just got you a floor seat to SmackDown." And that was just one hell of an awesome surprise. I end up going over there. It was a really good time, really good show. I'm one section over from the contingent of Sixers that were there that got booed when they showed them on the screen. So that was absolutely great. But it's always really fun when wrestling's in town.
Now, do you bring props with you? Signs, cheese graters, a belt, anything like that?
I have the big Flyers belt that Vince got me earlier in the season, and I'm just sitting around all these people with belts, and I was like, never again. I'm never coming without it again. I'm going to become a belt person.
How long's the show? Like 3 hours? Or
it was like 3.5 hours. Yeah.
All right. I haven't been to a wrestling show since I could tweet it out or put it out. It was 1984 at the Spectrum. You can actually go back and you can see if you go. I was able to figure it out because it was Big John Studd against Hulk Hogan. That was the headliner, and Hulk still had the white trunks. He wasn't even wearing the yellow trunks yet. But I have a picture. We were in the first row of the second level, and we took a Polaroid picture, and I took a picture of the Polaroid, and I put it out there. But yeah, it was like Rocky Johnson against Ricky Steamboat, the Rock's father, Rocky Johnson. It was unbelievable, the lineup. But you can go and you can Google all the old Spectrum cards from back in the day, and it'll tell you exactly who was wrestling in those cards. So it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I remember you used to talk a little wrestling with Blue Meanie down at Chickies. Those were back in our old life together, John.
Oh yeah. Oh, the Blue Meanie was the official wrestler of every show that I've ever been on. And then I've had some other wrestling listeners, like number one Brian Johnson. He was on the minor league circuit. So these guys that have regular full-time jobs and then on the weekends, and then after they get off of work, they're training because they have the dream of being a professional wrestler. It's actually really, really interesting.
It is. Brian's a trainer himself. He would be like, he'd be an extra at WWE shows and stuff. Like, yeah, he's really cool too.
Yeah. So, all right. Anyway, well, Bill, thank you, man. Appreciate it. A lot of fun as always. Go Birds. Maybe sign a player. They're probably going to lose a couple players, but stay tuned to PHLY all day long. Anthony's coming up next. And then the guys, the PHLY Eagles guys, are going to be like, listen, get them some energy drinks and some coffee because they're not sleeping in the next couple of days. Lots of content. All right, Bill. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right. Thanks for having me, Johnny.
Julia produced. Thank you very much, Julia. We are back tomorrow morning live at 8 a.m. Remember, on YouTube, you should be subscribing and you should be commenting and liking. And follow us on all of our social media channels as well. We'll talk to you more live at 8 a.m. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.